Jeez. Um, Hi, I'm Dr. Thomas Connelly. I'm a cosmetic dentist here in Beverly Hills and also in New York City. That's a great question, because just about every single dentist considers themselves a cosmetic dentist. There really is no specialty of cosmetic dentistry. It's a self-given label. With that being said, in this practice and in my New York practice, that's all we do. We don't do fillings and cleanings and general dentistry. We really specialize just in cosmetic procedures, veneers, crowns, full mouth reconstructions. And then those patients usually go back to their regular general dentist. Well, it depends on the age of the patient and also depends on where they grew up. I find that people that grew up in poor countries or poorer areas of the United States had substandard care as a child, substandard providers, and a lot of times they were treated poorly, and they've carried that into their adulthood. Going into the baby boomer generation, or even people that are a little bit older, they didn't have a lot of the technology that we have today, so they're all afraid. So it really varies, but we're able to set people's mind at ease with either sedation. We can actually put people to sleep. And we have a lot of techniques, and the expectation of interaction between a patient and a dentist has changed in the year 2020. We have relationships with our patients. We spend time with them. It's the same person. Not everybody is like me. There's clinics where you see a different person every time. I think it's hard on the patient when that happens. But for the most part, I think everybody's afraid of the dentist. No. Tooth is actually it's manufactured out of totally different cells, and it is a living tissue. There is actually living tissue inside of it, and there's a ligament between the tooth and the bone called the periodontal ligament. So it's a totally separate structure. As far as them having anything to do with wisdom, I don't quite know where that name came from. But making assumptions, they are the last teeth to come in. So maybe they come when you're a little bit older, a little bit wiser. As far as them having to come out, it really depends from person to person. If somebody has a large skeletal structure and there's plenty of room for them to erupt and they're able to clean them and use them, great. We don't see that a lot. A lot of times, the teeth come in a strange position, partially erupt, sometimes they're impacted. And what happens is they're not cleanable, and they cause infections. So we have to go in there and get them out, because left in is just a chronic infection. So I actually don't recommend rinsing with an antiseptic. I don't. You're able to remove 100% of the plaque with a toothbrush and with floss and just with water. Technically, you don't even need toothpaste, but we're also accustomed to using toothpaste, and it's a great aid to help rinse those things away. And there's a lot of other ingredients in it that help with the teeth. But as far as using a daily rinse, it's like taking antibiotics every day. You can build up resistance. And many of these rinses have alcohol in them. So the amount of contact of that alcohol to the skin in the throat and in the mouth is excessive, because sometimes you'll rinse with that for 2 or 3 minutes. Alcohol is linked to causing oral cancer. So there's just no reason to bombard your mouth with these rinses on a daily basis if you have good oral hygiene. Now, there's circumstances where we use them. We do some gum surgery, we do some procedures. We use them as an adjunct during that healing process. That's really what I use it for. Flossing and brushing, you have to. You really should be flossing and brushing in the beginning, after the nighttime. I like to do it after my first meal, before I start my day, and definitely before you go to bed. And anywhere in between is only going to help. You've heard the old saying, only floss the teeth you want to keep. That's a great question. It really depends on your diet. You know, acidic foods, um, bad habits. There's different things that can cause dental disease or erosion or fracturing. So you could have the greatest hygiene, remove all the bacteria, remove all the plaque in food, but you're sucking on lemons every day and you're eroding your teeth away, or you're chewing on ice and you're splitting your teeth. So it's not just oral hygiene, it's also food choices and not developing bad habits. Some people have never had a professional cleaning, and there may be some tartar or plaque that's down below the gum line that the patient actually can't reach. So even though you're brushing and flossing, you haven't had a professional cleaning, so there's some underlying bacteria that are still causing that inflammation. Some people develop gingivitis very quickly. You can develop gingivitis in a couple of days. Don't brush your teeth for 3 or 4 days, your gums are going to bleed. It happens pretty quick, but it also heals up quickly. So if you've had a professional cleaning and you're brushing and flossing and your gums are still bleeding, that's when you need to see a dentist and have them figure out what's going on. I don't think coffee is. Coffee can cause some discoloration, but a lot of times we can reverse that. As far as tobacco goes, totally different beast. Tobacco, they're not even in the same category. Tobacco, the carbon monoxide, all these different additives in it decrease the immune system in the gum tissue. So it makes you more prone to gingivitis, gum disease, bone loss, loose teeth, oral cancer. So, smoking tobacco, chewing tobacco, it's a big no-no. And we see the effects of it all the time. And I've been doing this 24 years. I've probably caught a dozen oral cancer cases, which I think is a lot, 1 every other year, that have resulted in some serious cancer, even some deaths. So it's real. Whitening, if done properly, if you follow the instructions on the box in the store, or if your dentist does it, it is not harmful. There are whitening solutions on the market that aren't approved that you can buy, sometimes mail order from China. Some of those solutions have acid content and can cause enamel demineralization, weakening of the tooth structure. But for the most part, the whitening industry is pretty well regulated, even more so in Europe than it is here. And if done properly, it's safe. It's very safe. In my practice here, we tend to do things, I guess the best way to describe it would be to compare it to automobiles. We're a Bugatti dealership. We do everything. We use the finest materials, the finest everything, and work with some of the top professionals in the world. So, full mouth reconstruction costs $100,000. But that can vary depending on how many teeth someone needs to have fixed or how many teeth they have in their mouth. But, I think somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 is pretty normal. To do it right and have it look amazing and function for 20, 30, 40 years and still look good. When you put braces on, each time they change the wire in the braces. So yeah, it's sore, but generally speaking, braces don't hurt. If you get the braces off and your teeth move, and you're supposed to wear retainers. When you get your braces off, they're going to make something that you sleep with to help maintain that alignment. They're usually clear retainers. If you don't wear those and the teeth start to move, you may have to go through orthodontics again. It is what it is. The same, adult orthodontics works great. Whether it's Invisalign or using traditional brackets, we can get anybody's teeth straight. Even with veneer work, there's pretty much, I don't think there's a certain circumstance that we can't get you fixed, from simple orthodontics all the way to having jaw surgery. We can get you lined up. That's not actually a ridiculous question. In my practice, a lot of our patients are remote, meaning they're coming from a far state or a far country. And sometimes when they're in their temporary phases, the temporaries will come off, and we tell them to use super glue to put it back on. So super glue is actually very biocompatible. They're using it in emergency rooms to put skin wounds back together instead of stitches. It sets quickly. and it exfoliates. So yeah, you could. It depends on the circumstances, of course. Oh, what's the most difficult part? That's a good question. I think once in a while we have a hard time getting some people numb. Some people just don't respond to the anesthetic, or something totally unusual. Every single tooth will be numb except one tooth, which makes no sense. And we got to struggle through that. And usually the patients, they feel pain. But it's very rare. But that's probably the hardest part when that happens. There are certain whitening toothpastes that have extra abrasive in them, higher, larger particles of baking soda, and that qualifies them as a whitening toothpaste, just to remove surface stain. Now, there is one toothpaste that actually has hydrogen peroxide on it, which is Colgate Optic White. It's a propylene glycol toothpaste that actually has a hydrogen peroxide that enters the enamel, gets into the deeper layers, and makes stained particles invisible and whitens the teeth. So for the most part, whitening toothpaste don't really do a great job of whitening the teeth, except for a couple of brands. And even then, brushing for whitening, it's not super effective. We find that you need to wear mouth guards with gels in them, or go through some type of bleaching procedure to really get good results that stick around. You really can't naturally get your teeth white. I mean, some people are born with white teeth, but a lot of us just have some inherent yellowing in our teeth. And that's just part of being a human being. The foods we eat have pigments in them. The enamel's porous. It picks up those pigments and it discolors. The best way to whiten your teeth is an in-office whitening system I use called KOR, K-O-R. It involves doing some in-office treatments, and the patient doing some treatments at home, and then following up some more treatments in the office. It's almost 100% effective. It works great. We can get people very white with that. More than half of our patients are redo work from other dentists. We have people come from all over the world, all over the country, that have had cosmetic procedures that are terrible and they're unhappy with, where they'll come here, we'll reverse it and we'll correct it and get them happy. So probably half. Oh, geez. There's so many different levels of quality and care. I think that a crown is not a crown, a veneer is not a veneer. I could have a crown made by a machine in China for $25 that I put in somebody's tooth. And I can have a crown made by a 25-year veteran ceramist that looks like a real tooth, and I'm paying him $1,500. That's the fee that I pay out, not the fee the patient pays. The patient pays more than that because I have to make money on it. And a lot of patients don't understand the difference between that because they can't see it or feel it. And people I think sometimes if you go to Beverly Hills, well, I'm in Beverly Hills, I'm going to get this one. They're going to all give me this $1,500 beautiful crown. I'm going to pay $2,000 or $3,000 for it. Unfortunately, it isn't the case. There's certain people that still use this crown in Beverly Hills, and they're still charging the $3,000 fee. So, it's really hard to be an educated consumer. You really got to do your homework and understand who your dentist is and who he's working with and the type of work he does. If you have a dental license in the United States, anyone can do veneers. The question is who does them good and who does them right. And that comes with experience. It comes with making mistakes, doing botched work, fixing it, learning, and doing it for 25 years where you've learned everything on the job and now you're delivering top-notch work every time because you've done it so many times. You can't teach some of these things. You just have to live it. And, here I am getting close to 50. I've been doing this 24 years. I'm fortunate enough to be in that position. So we do nice work. Obviously that's a generalization, but a lot of young dentists are unconsciously incompetent. I could give you two scenarios. I have a young dentist in New York City that comes and watches me work and asks me questions and takes notes, and he wants to learn how I do it. And he's yet to do a case. He's learning and trying to understand the procedure so that he doesn't make a mistake. And when he finally does the procedure, instead of doing 20 teeth, he'll probably do 4. And he's going to ask me to check it along the way. And that's the right way to learn, you know. And then you have somebody else that gets out of dental school and says, I have my license, I can do 20 veneers. And they go ahead and do it. And usually, in most cases, in my experience, it doesn't turn out well. And those are the cases we end up redoing. So I think you can have a young dentist that's very smart, very calculated, and wants to do good for his patients. And then you have a dentist that wants to make money and doesn't really care about learning the process. So obviously the answer is no. So there's both. When somebody loses a tooth, let's say, you know, the second to last molar, you lose that molar. You know, you've lost a chewing tooth. Not only have you lost that tooth, but the tooth above it is pretty much useless. It has nothing to bite against. I tend to favor doing bridge work over implants. That's just my style of practice. I'm not a big fan of drilling into the jaw and doing surgeries. And we see a lot of implant failures too. Just a couple of weeks ago, we took one out. It was heavily infected. It was placed in by a very competent surgeon, and the woman that had the implant was very hygienic, took very well care of it, and still failed. And it was a massive infection that took a month to heal. We'll replace that with a bridge that has almost zero chance of getting infected and will last 30 years. So generally speaking, my opinion is, you know, I prefer bridge work over implants. I think the consensus in the country, or maybe even in the globe, is implants are the preferred choice. But I think that's changing. I think as we see more implants start to fail, and the integration into the actual bone structure and the longevity of it, and the chronic inflammation and the infections that are developing, I can see us getting away from implants in certain areas. Hundreds of them, hundreds of people. And those are usually the people that come to us to redo the work. You know, they had a bad experience, their veneers are falling off. The dentist that they saw massacred their tooth, murdered it, took away all the enamel, drilled the tooth down into little nubs, and then we're left picking up the pieces. So those people have had a bad experience. It's really malpractice. The teeth were drilled improperly. And so those people have regrets. But their regret really isn't getting veneers, because once we fix them, they love their teeth. Their regret is going to the wrong dentist, having the wrong person do their work. It depends. I mean, if they're healthy and they're beautiful, well, there'll be no reason to. And we've had a couple of patients that come to us that tell me they want veneers, and we say, you're not a candidate. Your teeth are perfect. You just need whitening. But we veneer healthy teeth all day that are misaligned, undersized, dark brown color. You know, having healthy teeth is a great thing, but having healthy teeth that are beautiful and you're happy with your smile can be life-changing. And I think that, you know, we change people's lives sometimes when we put in a new set of veneers over healthy teeth, because they can smile for the first time in 40 years. So, yeah, maybe we have violated the tooth a little bit, made it a little bit less healthy. Not really, but we've violated it a little bit. But the mental health factor went through the roof. So that far outweighs it, in my opinion. You know, we build up tartar on the inside of our bottom front teeth. And if it builds up enough of it, it creates a sheet, almost like a piece of tape on the inside there. Well, if there's little slice marks in it, I know you're not flossing, because you can't get through it. It's a rock. So people come and say, I floss all the time, and there's a big sheet back there. There's no way they're flossing, because I can't even floss them. It's locked together. So yeah, but that's common. I mean, most people come in and just say yes. I'll be honest with you, we have a pretty good relationship with our patients. You know, if I come and say, hey, you flossed, and people say no, I'm like, all right, that helps me out. Because if I know their gums are bleeding and they haven't been flossing, it's a little bit more accurate picture for me than somebody says, I'm flossing all the time, and they're bleeding. Then we say, why? So I think we have a good enough relationship with our patients that we don't run into that. I think if you did a little bit more research into the history of it, you'll see that all the way back to even prehistoric man, they would take a stick and they would bend out the edges and use the stick to clean the teeth, like it would splay out. So there's all kinds of, there's even a dental history museum, I believe it's in Maryland, where they have some artifacts dating back hundreds of thousands of years where people had created these objects to clean their teeth. So if you just stop brushing them, chances are you're going to be in trouble. I think with any profession, whether you're running a YouTube station or you're emptying trash or you're a dentist, there's good and there's bad. And we're all dentists, and those people are all cameramen, and those people are all trash people. Figuring out who's good and who's bad, because everybody says they're good. That's the hard part. It's a movement. We have different ways of taking impressions of people's teeth and transferring them into working models. For example, if I want to take molds of your teeth and create a stone cast of that, the way I would do it is I would mix up a material, put it in a tray, and place it into your mouth. Once that's set, then I would pour stone into it, and I would have a stone model. That's the analog way of doing it. That's the way we do it. It's the tried and true method. It's really what we need to be doing for what we're doing. Mass production dentistry is shifting to a new model of digital dentistry, where instead of taking an impression, I take a camera in your mouth and I scan everything, and the computer reads it and computes everything and creates a digital version of that, and then using a digital printer can print out that model. One's not more accurate than the other. One's more expensive than the other. The digital is obviously more expensive, but as technology improves, it'll get cheaper. And it also allows machines to make the crowns, and machines to make it. It removes the human being pouring the stone, the human being doing these things. So cosmetic dentistry is very artistic. We're creating something that's lifelike. It's created in layers. It's painted like a canvas. Computers aren't doing that yet. They're milling them out of solid blocks. So you have a solid block, it's one color. It doesn't have life to it, doesn't have shape, it doesn't have character. So there's a big disconnect between the two. I'm sure that'll get closer and closer as they get more and more data into these computers. Maybe not my lifetime. Oh, geez, digital. Yeah, I'll be the old man that says, I don't want to do it that way. You're taking impressions the old way. Yeah, I don't see myself in 20 years from now. It'd have to really improve the digital dentistry. But, there's the talk about nanobots, little robots that go into the mouth and can do the dentistry. So who knows? Who knows? We don't have a written warranty. I have what I would call a gentleman's agreement with all of my patients. People pay a lot of money for this work. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes people may have accidents. Sometimes people change their mind. We work with patients. I'm probably the most lenient dentist I know. I've redone crowns that are 8 years old that broke for reasons that had nothing to do with me and didn't charge the patient. We've had full veneer cases where somebody had said they wanted them whiter. After they picked the color, we cut them off, redid it, made them whiter, and they changed their mind back. We cut them off again and put them back. And I didn't charge the guy. So it just depends on the relationship. It depends on how it goes with the patient. Most patients are easy to work with. And, you can't always make money. We sometimes lose money. And that's just part of the business. I think the saving grace in that is we're able to make revisions. Plastic surgeons, if they do a nose job and the patient's not happy, it's kind of hard to change that, and you have to wait a year to heal, and then they get another operating room, they get another anesthesiologist, and they got to go through this whole thing. With me, I just throw them in the chair, get them numb, and pop it off, and take a new impression, send it to my lab. In 3 weeks, we have a new one. So, there's some pluses in that system. So it's just part of the business. I think it's part of a successful business. There's a lot of guys that don't do that. We don't really run into that. I think we've built our practice to a point where patients defer to us. We know what looks good on people. Patients are not good at picking colors. They have no idea. And I'll be honest when I say I'm almost 100% of the time we're picking the color these days, because we know when we look at somebody and somebody says, I want white, 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 white. I'm like, well, you really don't. You don't. And here's why. And they just look at me and say, okay, just do whatever, doc. And it works out. No. Anybody that would have muscles wouldn't be able to do anything. I work out in the mornings every day. I've been doing it for forever, 30 years plus, maybe even longer. As time goes on, you get bigger. It just happens. The money part of it, having that as a barrier. Sometimes I want to fix somebody and they don't have any money. And I'm like, I want to fix their teeth. We can make this great. Let me do it. I don't have any money. So that's sometimes, if we could, it would be great, but that isn't the world we live in. In my practice, jewelry, putting diamonds in veneers, making teeth out of diamonds, adding gold into the veneer itself so it's permanently installed, as opposed to grills that are removable. This is stuff that you put in, it stays in. That's trending right now. Take care of your teeth. It's so easy to take care of them. It's a lot of work and a lot of money to fix them if you don't. It's very easy. You spend 3 or 4 minutes a day. That's all it takes. As opposed to the amount of money you'll spend and the time you spend in the dental chair. It's just too easy to not do it. Love my job. Let me think.